In the quiet folds of the medieval countryside where mist clung to the hills like a whispered secret, there stood an ancient convent, its stone walls gray and cold yet hiding stories far warmer and more tangled than any visitor could imagine. The sunlight touched its spires with a gentle, forgiving glow, but inside, shadows moved in ways that spoke of whispers, secrets, and forbidden ambitions. The convent, dedicated to prayer and service, was a place of discipline, yet beneath its pious exterior, life breathed with desires and intrigues that no chronicler dared fully write. The nuns moved with measured steps in the cloisters, their habits brushing softly against the stone, their eyes carrying secrets they could not share with the world outside. Some were gentle and pious, devoted to the quiet rhythm of the day, the tolling of the bell, the smell of incense, the turning of pages in worn prayer books. Others had sharper eyes, quick minds, and hearts that dared to question more than the convent walls allowed. Between these walls, the pulse of human nature beat just as strongly as anywhere else in the medieval world. It was Sister Beatrice, a young nun with eyes like storm clouds and a mind sharper than most, who first noticed the subtle shifts in power. Small things at first: a candle left burning in the wrong place, a note passed secretly from one hand to another, an eyebrow raised in silent accusation during morning prayers. The convent, like any small community, was filled with allegiances, rivalries, and ambitions. And in its cloisters, secrets were currency, whispered carefully to those who could be trusted or feared. Then there was Sister Marguerite, older and cleverer, whose smile held the weight of decades of observing human folly. She had survived scandals that could have ruined entire families, scandals that no bishop would ever hear about, scandals buried in the folds of confession and silence. Marguerite's subtle maneuvers in the convent hierarchy were masterful. She would place a sister in charge of the kitchens or the library, only to shift her position a week later, watching carefully as alliances formed, collapsed, and reformed again. It was a quiet game, and yet within it there were tremors that could destroy reputations in a heartbeat. And so the convent lived in a delicate balance of appearances and hidden truths. Some sisters hid forbidden feelings for one another, a soft longing that could never be spoken aloud, masked by the ritual of shared prayers and the soft echo of chorales. Others coveted power, seeking positions of authority over novices or the management of the convent's lands, maneuvering like chess pieces in a game where only the most cunning survived. Every meal, every shared task, every glance had a potential meaning, a secret story, a whispered possibility. Rumors fluttered through the halls like restless birds. There were whispers of letters smuggled to the outside world, messages sent in the guise of prayers to noble patrons. There were stories of hidden treasures, of objects forbidden by the church, locked away in cellars or secret compartments behind old wooden panels. The nuns, though cloaked in piety, were human, and the human heart is never satisfied with simplicity. Sister Beatrice, curious and brave, began to follow the threads of these stories. She would linger near the refectory after meals, watching, listening, piecing together hints. She learned of secret meetings in the dead of night, of clandestine discussions about wealth and influence, of plans to challenge the authority of the abbess, a stern woman whose reputation for discipline was feared throughout the countryside. Beatrice was fascinated by the invisible currents beneath the convent as calm exterior, the way loyalty could shift like water, the way trust could be both weapon and shield. The abbess, Mother Agnes, was a formidable presence. Her eyes, sharp and penetrating, missed little. She had ruled the convent for decades, maintaining order with a quiet strength that kept both the devout and the ambitious in line. Yet even she was not immune to scandal, for no place where humans gather is ever free of it. Letters disappeared, accusations were whispered, and secrets were traded in the silent corridors. Agnes, ever vigilant, was careful, but even she could not prevent the subtle mischief that wove through her community. There was one night, in the pale silver of moonlight, when the full extent of the convent's hidden life revealed itself. Beatrice, unable to sleep, wandered the cloisters and discovered a hidden alcove behind the library. There she found Marguerite and a small group of sisters, gathered around old parchment maps and letters from distant patrons, their voices hushed but urgent. They spoke of donations and favors, of alliances with local lords, of schemes to expand the convent's influence beyond the surrounding village. The air was thick with ambition, and Beatrice realized that what seemed serene and holy by day was a network of strategy and intrigue by night. As the weeks passed, the convent's hidden life continued to unfold. Sisters whispered of betrayals, of friendships tested by ambition, of alliances formed over shared secrets. Beatrice discovered that a novice had been secretly tutoring children of noble families, earning favor and attention beyond the convent walls. Another sister had learned to forge signatures to protect the convent's finances, a skill both dangerous and essential. Every revelation added layers to the tapestry of intrigue, and every day the convent felt less like a sanctuary and more like a court of subtle power plays. Yet amidst the plots and schemes, there were moments of quiet humanity. Beatrice would watch as sisters comforted one another during illness, as they tended gardens or prepared bread with meticulous care. These acts of care reminded her that, for all the ambition and secrets, there was warmth and loyalty, moments where the soul revealed itself without fear of judgment. It was this balance between shadow and light, secrecy and devotion, that made life in the convent both perilous and mesmerizing. Over time, Beatrice became a master of observation herself, learning to read the nuances of expression, the slight tilts of the head, the fleeting smiles that betrayed hidden plans. She understood the delicate equilibrium that allowed the convent to survive, to maintain its reputation, while beneath the surface, a complex and secret life flourished. Every day was a lesson in patience, strategy, and empathy, a reminder that human nature, even cloaked in piety, cannot be fully constrained. Even the abbess, formidable though she was, could not control every element. There were times when letters went missing, when favors were secretly granted, when alliances shifted in ways she could not foresee. And yet the convent endured, not through divine intervention alone, but through the careful dance of observation, discretion, and understanding among those who lived within its walls. And so the convent continued, a place of prayer and mystery, where scandals were whispered in the shadows, alliances were forged in secret, and the quiet rhythm of life carried on above a world of intrigue. The nuns, each in their own way, navigated the currents of ambition and loyalty, desire and duty, learning that survival in the cloisters required more than faith, it required wisdom, subtlety, and courage. As the years passed, the story of this convent, of Beatrice, Marguerite, and Mother Agnes, became part of a tapestry too intricate for chroniclers to record. Yet the essence of their lives, the whispered secrets, the clever schemes, the careful balance between devotion and ambition remained. In the quiet of the night when the world was still and the moon cast silver light across the cloisters, one could almost hear the echoes of those hidden lives, a soft hum of intrigue and humanity interwoven in the stone walls of the medieval convent. It was a place where scandal never reached the ears of the outside world, yet thrived in whispers and glances, a secret heartbeat beneath the serene surface. And those who walked its halls learned, in time, that life in the convent was never simple, never entirely holy, yet never devoid of beauty, mystery, or the delicate thrill of secrets carefully kept and skillfully revealed. The convent, timeless in its gray stone and gentle spires, held countless stories like this, hidden from view but alive in the hearts and minds of those who had walked its cloisters. And in the quiet moments when the wind rustled the trees and the bells tolled softly in the distance, it seemed that even the walls themselves remembered the subtle scandals and secret triumphs of those who had lived whispered and dreamed within them. And as the night deepened, the nuns, each in their own rooms, lay in gentle quiet, their minds wandering through the labyrinth of yesterday's intrigues and tomorrow's possibilities, the weight of secrets and the thrill of cleverness lulling them into a deep, calm, and restorative sleep. The convent, though cloaked in silence by day, seemed almost alive at night, a living organism where each sister played a role in an unspoken hierarchy. Some were bold, daring to test the limits of rules and authority, while others moved cautiously, whispering their loyalties only to those they could trust completely. In the dim light of the cloisters, shadows stretched like fingers across the worn stones, hiding whispered conversations and the gentle turning of ancient pages in books forbidden to novices. One sister, Lucienne, had arrived only a few months earlier, yet she already carried an air of quiet authority that unsettled others. Her sharp mind and curiosity had drawn her into the intricate web of alliances, and she quickly discovered that there were some secrets even Mother Agnes could not fully control. Lucienne became Beatrice's companion in observation, two minds meeting in the night, exchanging silent signals and subtle glances, piecing together the patterns of trust and deception. They learned of a hidden library, a room filled with manuscripts banned or forgotten, containing knowledge of medicine, astrology, and even distant lands. Access was limited, Yet whispers suggested that some sisters, under Marguerite's careful guidance, had found ways to enter unseen, reading by candlelight long after the others had gone to bed. The room smelled of parchment, dust, and the faint perfume of candles, and the knowledge within offered power, prestige, and influence that went far beyond the convent walls. Meanwhile, petty rivalries simmered beneath the surface. Sister Agnes, a devout and meticulous keeper of the chapel, grew suspicious of newcomers, believing that even the smallest act of curiosity could ripple into scandal. She watched with sharp eyes as Beatrice and Lucien lingered too long near the library, as Marguerite smiled knowingly at certain exchanges, as letters vanished and reappeared in places no one could explain. The convent was a maze, and every turn held the possibility of discovery or disaster. There were moments of quiet defiance, small acts that seemed insignificant to the casual observer but carried enormous weight in the subtle politics of the cloisters. A candle left burning in an unusual corner, a particular arrangement of herbs in the infirmary, a misplaced key to the granary, all could send ripples through the delicate ecosystem of trust. And the sisters, adept at reading the nuances of behavior, understood that power often hid in the smallest details. Beatrice, drawn into the rhythm of this hidden world, began keeping careful mental notes, cataloging patterns of allegiance and rivalry. She noticed how Marguerite subtly manipulated the abbess, planting ideas and observations that seemed accidental but guided decisions in a quiet, invisible hand. She saw how Lucien could soothe tempers with a single word or redirect suspicion with a smile. Each day added layers to the tapestry, a pattern that only the keenest observer could truly understand. Even the abbess, though formidable and wise, faced challenges that required delicacy. Letters arrived from patrons requesting favors or attention, and each needed careful handling to avoid scandal. At times, Beatrice would see Mother Agnes reading these letters in private, her eyes narrowing, her hands trembling slightly as she weighed options and consequences. The weight of responsibility pressed on her, yet she carried it with dignity, aware that even a small misstep could unravel decades of careful governance. Outside the convent, the village remained largely unaware of the complexities within the walls. To the villagers, the nuns were serene, devoted, and pious, their lives measured by the tolling of bells and the rhythm of prayer. Yet within, human nature thrived in all its complexity: friendship, jealousy, ambition, and the occasional quiet rebellion. It was a delicate balance, a dance of shadows and light, where every glance, word, and gesture carried meaning far beyond its surface. Then there was the mysterious arrival of a traveling scholar, who came bearing gifts and rare manuscripts, claiming to be delivering knowledge from distant lands. His presence stirred whispers immediately. Some sisters welcomed him with polite curiosity. Others, more cautious, feared the influence he might exert, the secrets he might uncover. Marguerite, ever clever, saw opportunity and guided select sisters in delicate conversations, ensuring that the scholar's knowledge could benefit the convent while avoiding exposure of their hidden intrigues. One evening, the scholar left behind a single parchment, a cryptic note hinting at secrets buried even deeper than the convent walls. Beatrice and Lucien, drawn by curiosity, followed its subtle clues, discovering passages and chambers unknown to most. They found evidence of past nuns' ambitions, hidden caches of documents, and signs of secret councils that had long been erased from memory. It was a labyrinth of history, ambition, and hidden knowledge, a map of human desire written into stone, parchment, and whispered memory. And yet, even amidst the clever maneuvering and secret knowledge, moments of tenderness existed. Sisters cared for one another in quiet ways, mending habits by candlelight, sharing the warmth of the kitchen fire, or offering silent comfort to those ill with fever or despair. These acts of quiet kindness reminded all that, for all the intrigue, ambition, and clever schemes, the human heart remained compassionate, capable of loyalty, love, and friendship that transcended fear or ambition. The seasons passed. Snow fell on the cloisters, covering the stone paths with a soft, white blanket, muffling footsteps and lending an air of timeless calm. Spring brought new life, fresh herbs in the garden, and the laughter of novices learning their roles. Through it all, the hidden currents of power and secret knowledge persisted, invisible to outsiders but felt by those who lived within the walls. Beatrice, now a masterful observer, could read these currents like a scholar reading an ancient text, knowing when to act, when to remain silent, and when to let the games unfold as they always had. The abbess, wise and discerning, continued to guide the convent with a steady hand. She understood that the hidden life within the walls was not a threat but a reflection of human nature, a force to be balanced rather than suppressed. And as the nuns moved through their daily routines, prayers, meals, study, and labor, they did so with an awareness of the delicate equilibrium that allowed both order and secret life to coexist. In the quiet of the night, when only the moon and stars bore witness, the convent revealed its true character. Whispers echoed in cloisters, shadows danced along the walls, and the weight of secrets hung in the air like incense. And yet, within this tapestry of intrigue, ambition, and quiet defiance, there was beauty in understanding that human nature, though complex and often mischievous, could create patterns of harmony, resilience, and subtle artistry that endured through time. As the night deepened and sleep settled over the convent, each sister lay in her cell, thoughts drifting over the events of the day and the whispered possibilities of tomorrow. In dreams, the labyrinth of secrets and ambitions stretched endlessly, inviting exploration and reflection, while the steady rhythm of candle flames and distant bells offered comfort, continuity, and the promise of another day. The convent endured, timeless in its stone walls and quiet corridors, a world of hidden currents, clever minds, and careful hearts. And within its depths, the subtle scandals, secret ambitions, and delicate triumphs of its residents remained alive, a testament to the enduring complexity of human nature, even cloaked in piety. And so as the wind whispered through the trees and the moonlight painted soft patterns on the cloisters, the convent and its secrets slept, carrying its hidden life softly into the night, waiting for the next chapter of human intrigue to awaken with the dawn. Winter receded slowly, leaving the cloisters glistening with morning frost, and with it came new opportunities and new intrigues. The convent, seemingly serene from the outside, thrummed with the quiet pulse of hidden schemes. Even the abbess, Mother Agnes, noticed subtle shifts, the way sisters exchanged glances in the refectory, the careful placement of books, the sudden disappearance of small, seemingly unimportant objects that, in the right hands, carried power. Beatrice, now fully enmeshed in the convent's secret world, moved with the precision of someone who had learned to read between the lines of human behavior. She observed the novice sisters, noting who formed bonds quickly, who envied whom, and who whispered behind closed doors. She saw that alliances were as delicate as spider silk, strong enough to support a plan, yet easily snapped if tension arose. Each conversation, each gesture, each glance held meaning. Marguerite continued her subtle orchestration, a quiet puppeteer behind the scenes. She encouraged loyalty to her faction while planting seeds of doubt elsewhere, guiding the abbess toward decisions that advanced her hidden agenda without ever appearing manipulative. She had a keen sense of timing, knowing precisely when to speak, when to remain silent, and when to act. The nuns, though unaware, moved through a lattice of influence carefully shaped over decades. And then there were the outsiders, merchants, scholars, and occasional nobles who, whether intentionally or not, became part of the convent's web. Gifts of rare manuscripts, exotic spices, or fine cloth created opportunities for favor and influence. A well-timed compliment, a subtle hint, a gracious reception in the refectory could shift alliances overnight. Beatrice and Lucien observed these interactions, understanding that even the smallest act from outside could ripple through the community, altering the balance of trust and ambition. A new figure arrived one spring, a young, scholarly monk sent by a distant abbey to inspect the convent's records. His presence sparked immediate curiosity and quiet tension. Some sisters welcomed him politely. Others watched him warily. Marguerite, ever strategic, ensured that only select sisters interacted with him, feeding him carefully curated information while keeping their more delicate schemes hidden. Beatrice observed every exchange, learning not just about the monk, but about the sisters themselves, their loyalties, ambitions, and subtle fears. The convent gardens, once merely a place of labor and prayer, became arenas of subtle contest. Certain herbs, prized for medicinal or culinary use, were hoarded, exchanged, or accidentally misplaced. The abbess, aware of the potential for conflict, monitored these small competitions, understanding that they reflected larger currents of influence. Sisters who controlled access to these resources gained quiet prestige, and the careful observance of such power plays became a discipline in itself. Even the smallest rooms held secrets. Beatrice discovered a hidden compartment in the infirmary wall, filled with old letters, maps, and tokens left by nuns long past. Some letters hinted at rivalries, others at long-forgotten friendships, and some contained instructions for secret rituals or studies once deemed too radical. The discovery reinforced her understanding that the convent's history was layered, each generation adding complexity, each secret leaving a trace for the next to find. The abbess, despite her wisdom, faced challenges that required diplomacy as much as authority. Some sisters questioned her decisions, others tested her patience, and a few sought to manipulate her indirectly through letters, gifts, and subtle persuasion. Agnes understood that the convent's stability depended not on strict punishment alone, but on careful observation, subtle intervention, and the ability to read the currents beneath the calm surface. Season by season, Beatrice and Lucien became adept at navigating these currents. They learned that quiet acts of kindness could wield influence just as powerfully as cunning strategy. A shared word in the garden, a thoughtful gesture in the infirmary, a moment of understanding during prayer could create loyalty and trust that rivaled even the most elaborate schemes. They realized that the human heart was as complex as the convent itself, capable of ambition, jealousy, and cunning, but also of generosity, loyalty, and courage. Even the nights carried drama and intrigue. Moonlight streaming through narrow windows revealed hidden gestures and secret meetings. Beatrice and Lucien discovered a small group of sisters who met in a forgotten room beneath the chapel, discussing plans for expansion of the convent. Influenced the preservation of rare manuscripts and methods to ensure the community's survival through uncertain times. Their conversations, though careful and measured, hinted at ambitions that could reshape the convent in subtle, lasting ways. And yet, even in the midst of these ambitions, the convent's routines continued. Meals were prepared with care, prayers were observed with devotion, and chores were performed with diligence. The rhythm of daily life provided a backdrop, against which the hidden dramas unfolded, a steady pulse that reminded all that, for every whispered plan or quiet rivalry, life itself required balance, patience, and attentiveness. Beatrice reflected on the layers she had uncovered, the alliances, rivalries, secrets, and unspoken loyalties. She realized that understanding the convent was not merely a matter of observing actions, but interpreting intentions, reading subtleties, and recognizing the hidden codes that guided behavior. It was a world where silence spoke volumes, where a glance could reveal loyalty or betrayal, and where the true measure of wisdom was knowing when to act and when to remain still. The abbess, while appearing serene, remained acutely aware of the delicate equilibrium. She understood that the convent's power lay not only in devotion or discipline, but in the careful management of human nature. Each sister, each visitor, each small act carried potential, and the ability to harmonize these forces determined the survival and prosperity of the community. In this world of shadows and light, Beatrice discovered a deeper truth, that scandal, secrecy, and ambition were not merely obstacles to holiness, but reflections of life itself. The convent, with all its hidden currents, was a mirror of the broader world, revealing the intricate interplay of desire, loyalty, cunning, and compassion that shaped human experience. As the sun set over the convent spires, painting the stone walls in gold and rose, a gentle calm settled. The sisters retired to their cells, each carrying the weight of the day's discoveries and the quiet thrill of hidden knowledge. And in the stillness of the night, when the wind whispered through the trees and the bells tolled softly, the convent breathed with a life all its own, a life of secrets, schemes, loyalty, and subtle triumphs, a world of human complexity preserved within ancient stone walls. Spring deepened into early summer, and the convent gardens bloomed with life, filling the air with the scent of fresh herbs, flowers, and the faint aroma of beeswax from candles recently polished. Even amidst this beauty, the pulse of hidden ambition continued. Sisters moved through the gardens and corridors with careful attention to relationships, watching alliances form like delicate threads in a tapestry only the most observant could discern. One morning, as the sun touched the spires with a golden glow, a stranger appeared at the convent gates. A traveling painter, commissioned by a distant noble to capture the convent's serene exterior for a gift to the abbess, brought with him an aura of curiosity and quiet disruption. Marguerite saw in him both risk and opportunity. She guided select sisters to assist him, ensuring that the sketches he made reflected a careful, curated view of the convent, hiding some doors, some windows, and some of the secret corners that contained years of whispered stories. Beatrice and Lucien watched these interactions closely. The painter's presence allowed certain schemes to flourish, while creating subtle pressure elsewhere. A sister in charge of the archives found herself nervous under his gaze, while another relished the chance to demonstrate knowledge of manuscripts that had long been hidden. Even Mother Agnes had to navigate his attention carefully, balancing the convent's outward appearance with the realities of life within. Summer brought with it a series of letters from distant patrons, thanking the abbess for prayers, donations, and favors. Some letters arrived in plain script, others in cryptic codes known only to select sisters. Beatrice learned to recognize these coded correspondences, small ciphers hidden in flourishes, the placement of dates or the choice of words. These communications were more than words. They were instruments of influence, subtle channels of power that could elevate a sister or redirect her ambitions. At night, the convent became a maze of quiet activity. Candlelight flickered across stone walls, revealing fleeting shadows as sisters moved carefully through the halls. Some carried letters, others adjusted books on shelves, and a few walked with no visible purpose at all, yet their movements shaped the hidden world within. Beatrice and Lucien, now experts in observation, could read these patterns, understanding which sisters were loyal, which were cautious, and which were quietly plotting. The infirmary, usually a place of care and recovery, became a hub of subtle strategy. Herbs were traded discreetly, remedies offered selectively, and the placement of rare ingredients sometimes determined influence as surely as a favor granted to a visiting noble. Marguerite orchestrated these small exchanges with quiet precision, ensuring that loyalty and gratitude were nurtured in equal measure, while rivalries remained carefully contained. A mysterious visitor arrived one evening, cloaked and silent, carrying an envelope addressed to the abbess in unfamiliar handwriting. The letter contained not a request for favor, but a warning, subtle hints that the convent's careful balance might soon be threatened by forces beyond the walls. Whispers spread immediately, though the abbess kept a composed exterior. Beatrice, listening from the cloisters, felt the thrill of danger and intrigue. She knew that even the most subtle warning could set in motion events that would ripple through every hidden chamber and corridor. The nuns, despite these complexities, maintained their rituals of devotion. Morning prayers, evening vespers, the quiet labor of tending the gardens and kitchens all continued as if nothing were amiss. Yet beneath these rhythms, life was a game of careful observation. Every glance, every gesture, every choice of words was measured, analyzed, and remembered. Beatrice marveled at how such a structured environment could nurture such rich, intricate human dynamics, where intelligence and subtlety mattered as much as devotion. Marguerite, ever the strategist, began mentoring younger sisters in the art of observation and discretion. She showed them how to listen without seeming to eavesdrop, how to notice tension or alliance without intervention, and how to use knowledge gently to influence events. These lessons were subtle, almost invisible, yet they strengthened the convent's internal network of trust and loyalty. Beatrice learned more from these evenings than she had from months of careful watching alone. Summer days turned long, and with them came moments of quiet reflection. Sisters would sit beneath the trees, the sun warming the cloisters, and share whispered stories of past nuns whose lives had shaped the convent. Tales of hidden councils, secret passages, and clever negotiations passed down through generations revealed a rich history of intelligence, resilience, and subtle ambition. Beatrice realized that the convent was not merely a place of piety, but a living repository of human complexity, where every decision, every act, every secret contributed to a hidden legacy. One evening, a festival in the nearby village offered a brief glimpse of the outside world. Sisters were allowed to participate in the celebrations under careful supervision, and the convent's reputation for piety shone in public. Yet even here, subtle exchanges occurred. Messages were passed, small gifts offered, and alliances hinted at through glances. Beatrice noted how influence extended beyond the stone walls, how reputation and perception were as carefully managed as any internal secret. As summer waned, the convent faced a test. A dispute arose between two influential sisters over the management of a small but valuable garden plot. What began as a minor disagreement quickly revealed layers of loyalty, ambition, and subtle manipulation. Beatrice observed Marguerite intervening with careful diplomacy, redirecting tensions without overt confrontation. The abbess oversaw the resolution, ensuring that the conflict strengthened rather than fractured the delicate web of influence. Through it all, Beatrice understood that survival and success within the convent depended on more than cleverness. It required empathy, patience, and an understanding of the human heart. Every act of kindness, every gesture of fairness, every whispered word of encouragement had power equal to any scheme or subtle maneuver. And in these moments, she realized that the convent's true strength lay not in stone walls or strict rules, but in the careful nurturing of relationships, trust, and shared understanding. As autumn arrived, painting the cloisters in gold and crimson, the convent settled into a rhythm both familiar and charged with hidden energy. Secrets were preserved, schemes advanced quietly, and alliances evolved with the precision of a delicate dance. Beatrice, Lucien, Marguerite, and even Mother Agnes moved through this world with awareness, skill, and respect for the subtle forces that governed their lives. And as night fell over the convent, the windows glowing softly with candlelight, the sisters retired to their cells, hearts full of unspoken thoughts, minds alive with observation, and spirits attuned to the delicate balance of life within the walls. The convent slept, yet beneath its serene exterior, the pulse of ambition, loyalty, and quiet triumph continued, an invisible testament to the enduring complexity of human nature, and the subtle art of navigating a world of hidden intrigue. Autumn deepened, painting the cloisters in hues of amber and rust, and with the shortening days came a reflective quiet that permeated the convent. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying the faint scent of damp earth and fallen leaves, and the nuns moved with a gentler rhythm, their footsteps soft against the worn stone floors. Yet, beneath the calm surface, the currents of hidden ambition and subtle intrigue remained as lively as ever. Beatrice found herself increasingly drawn into Marguerite's inner circle, learning the delicate art of guiding events without leaving a trace. She saw how a carefully worded suggestion during a council meeting could redirect a novice's loyalty, how a small act of kindness in the infirmary could secure quiet support, and how silence itself could be a tool more powerful than words. Each day, she grew more adept at reading the unspoken language of the convent, noticing the smallest shifts in demeanor, the subtlest inflections of voice, the flicker of a glance that carried meaning beyond its surface. A series of letters arrived from distant patrons, each more enigmatic than the last. Some contained riddles and subtle instructions, others included delicate sketches of lands, objects, and people, hints at hidden networks of influence outside the convent walls. Marguerite interpreted them with ease, translating cryptic suggestions into actionable strategies, while Beatrice observed and learned the complex dance of diplomacy, loyalty, and discretion that governed their responses. The convent, though secluded, was intricately connected to a broader world, a web of relationships that demanded constant attention. One cold evening, as frost kissed the edges of the cloisters, a traveling apothecary arrived, bringing rare herbs and unusual remedies. His presence sparked immediate curiosity. Some sisters welcomed him eagerly, hoping to acquire knowledge that would increase their standing within the convent. Others watched him warily, aware that his arrival could alter alliances and test loyalties. Marguerite guided select sisters in subtle interactions, ensuring that the apothecary gained a carefully curated view of the convent while keeping the most sensitive secrets hidden. Beatrice noted every movement, every conversation, every glance, understanding how even minor events could ripple through the web of hidden influence. Winter approached, covering the gardens with frost and silencing the bees that had hummed throughout the summer. Yet the activity within the convent did not cease. Candles flickered against stone walls, illuminating secret corners where whispered conversations continued late into the night. Beatrice discovered a long-forgotten chamber beneath the chapel, filled with manuscripts, maps, and letters from centuries past. Some contained historical accounts of secret councils, others offered subtle strategies for maintaining authority and influence. The room smelled of dust, ink, and the faint fragrance of dried herbs, and in its quiet, Beatrice felt a profound connection to the generations of nuns who had navigated the same delicate balance of devotion, ambition, and discretion. The abbess, Mother Agnes, though formidable and wise, faced challenges even she could not anticipate. Some sisters questioned her decisions, others sought to manipulate outcomes through subtle suggestion or indirect action. Agnes relied on her keen understanding of human nature, carefully observing the movements, words, and gestures of those around her. She knew that true authority required more than stern edicts. It demanded intuition, patience, and an ability to harmonize the complex forces at play within her community. During the long winter nights, Beatrice and Lucien studied the patterns of influence and alliance, often meeting in secret to discuss observations and share insights. They mapped the subtle relationships, noting who relied on whom, who held quiet sway over the novices, and who had the potential to shift the balance of power with a single clever move. Their understanding deepened with each passing day, revealing the intricate lattice of trust, ambition, and loyalty that allowed the convent to flourish despite the ever-present undercurrent of hidden intrigue. Even the simplest tasks carried layers of meaning. The placement of herbs in the infirmary, the order in which books were arranged in the library, the choice of who delivered messages to the abbessal could alter perceptions and influence the delicate equilibrium. Beatrice learned that small acts often held more power than grand gestures, that observation and subtlety were tools more potent than force, and that understanding human motivation was the key to navigating the hidden currents of convent life. A new event disrupted the usual rhythm. A noblewoman visited the convent, claiming a desire to contribute to its upkeep and spiritual mission. Her arrival sparked immediate interest and subtle maneuvering. Some sisters sought her favor openly, while others moved quietly, influencing decisions behind the scenes. Marguerite guided the interactions with precision, ensuring that the noblewoman saw what she was meant to see, heard what she was meant to hear, and remained unaware of the hidden currents shaping her perception. Beatrice watched carefully, noting how perception could be shaped without overt intervention, and how influence flowed through gestures, words, and even silences. As the winter deepened, the convent prepared for the festival of Candlemas. Preparations were meticulous, blending devotion with subtle strategy. Every decoration, every arrangement of candles, every selection of readings and songs was carefully considered. The festival became an opportunity to demonstrate order, piety, and grace, while also reinforcing alliances and subtly managing rivalries. Beatrice, Lucien, and Marguerite played key roles behind the scenes, ensuring that the event unfolded flawlessly while advancing hidden objectives with quiet skill. Amidst the careful choreography of preparation and celebration, Beatrice reflected on the lessons she had learned. The convent, with its layers of secrecy, alliances, and subtle ambition, was not merely a religious institution, it was a living testament to human complexity. Faith, intelligence, empathy, and cunning coexisted, shaping a world that was both disciplined and dynamic, serene and charged with quiet energy. And as the festival candles were lit, casting warm light across the stone walls, the nuns gathered in prayer, song, and reflection. The convent, enduring and resilient, carried within it centuries of hidden triumphs, whispered secrets, and delicate victories. The lives of those who navigated its subtle currents were woven into a tapestry invisible to outsiders, yet vivid and powerful to those who understood its intricate patterns. When the candles burned low and the night settled over the cloisters, the sisters retired to their cells, hearts full of unspoken thoughts and minds alive with the quiet thrill of observation. The convent slept, serene yet vibrant beneath its stone walls, carrying its secrets, ambitions, and triumphs softly into the night. And within this living web of human complexity, Beatrice understood that the true story of the convent was not written in chronicles or ledgers, but in the subtle interactions, the whispered words, and the carefully nurtured relationships that endured through time. As winter slowly loosened its grip, early spring arrived with tentative warmth, melting frost from the cloisters and coaxing green shoots from the garden beds. The convent, long wrapped in quiet reflection, awakened with subtle energy. Sisters moved with renewed purpose, tending herbs, preparing seeds, and quietly observing the interplay of relationships that had simmered through the long months of frost. Even the abbess, Mother Agnes, seemed lighter in spirit, her eyes reflecting a calm awareness that the hidden currents of ambition and loyalty would continue to shape the community, season after season. Beatrice, now fully adept at understanding the delicate dance of influence, noticed the subtle ways the convent responded to change. Novices who had seemed timid the previous year now displayed quiet confidence, asserting their place within the hierarchy in ways both clever and measured. Sister Lucienne, equally skilled in observation, noted how alliances shifted in response to the changing environment, and together they mapped the hidden flows of power that dictated daily life. Even Marguerite, seasoned and cunning, recognized that each year brought new challenges, new rivalries, and new opportunities to exercise subtle control. The arrival of a traveling merchant heralded a new wave of intrigue. He brought with him rare fabrics, spices, and manuscripts from distant lands. Some sisters were captivated by the novelty and potential for personal advancement, while others approached with caution, wary of the disruptions such a visitor might bring. Marguerite guided the interactions with deliberate precision, allowing the merchant to see only what was intended, while ensuring that the convent's more sensitive secrets remained protected. Beatrice watched, fascinated, as the interplay of perception and influence unfolded, a living lesson in diplomacy, strategy, and subtle power. In the infirmary, hidden tensions surfaced once more. Certain herbs were in high demand, prized for their rarity, and efficacy, and control over their distribution became a source of quiet influence. Sisters who managed these resources gained respect, loyalty, and at times, silent envy. Beatrice observed how Marguerite subtly managed these exchanges, rewarding loyalty while mitigating potential conflicts, ensuring that the convent remained harmonious even as ambitions quietly shifted. Letters continued to arrive from distant patrons and allies, some written in codes known only to select sisters. Beatrice learned to decode them, each symbol and flourish carrying instructions, requests, or warnings. One letter hinted at a noble family seeking favor. Another suggested an opportunity to acquire rare manuscripts, and yet another contained a subtle warning of a potential rival outside the convent walls. The complexity of these communications revealed the depth of the convent's hidden network and the delicate skill required to navigate it successfully. Spring festivals brought brief excursions into the surrounding village, where the convent's reputation for piety and order was reinforced. Yet even these outward displays of serenity carried undercurrents of strategy. Beatrice noted how gestures, the selection of gifts, and even the manner of speech shaped perceptions, reinforcing alliances and subtly asserting influence. The convent, while cloistered, remained connected to the broader world, its reputation carefully cultivated through both visible devotion and invisible maneuvering. The hidden chamber beneath the chapel became a hub of quiet scholarship. Beatrice and Lucien spent long hours poring over manuscripts, deciphering ancient texts, and uncovering strategies employed by nuns generations before. Some manuscripts described methods of maintaining influence, resolving conflicts, and guiding novices with subtlety and care. Others revealed long-forgotten rivalries, secret councils, and carefully orchestrated negotiations. Each discovery deepened their understanding of the convent's intricate web of power and the delicate balance between devotion and ambition. Even as hidden intrigues flourished, acts of genuine care and humanity continued to define daily life. Sisters tended the sick with patience and compassion, offered comfort to those struggling with doubt or fear, and shared quiet moments of friendship that transcended rivalry. Beatrice realized that these small acts of kindness, often overlooked, were the foundation upon which the convent's enduring strength rested. Power and ambition were important, but without trust, loyalty, and empathy, the delicate equilibrium could crumble. A visiting scholar arrived one summer, seeking guidance on ancient texts and manuscripts. Marguerite orchestrated his interactions with careful skill, revealing select knowledge while concealing sensitive information. Beatrice observed how even the simplest conversation could carry multiple layers of meaning, influence, and potential consequence. The convent, though cloistered, existed within a network of subtle diplomacy and strategic communication, each sister playing her part in maintaining balance and safeguarding secrets. As the seasons cycled once more, the convent faced challenges that tested both wisdom and patience. Minor disputes over resources, questions of authority, and rivalries among sisters emerged, each requiring careful navigation. Marguerite and Beatrice, along with the abbess, managed these tensions with subtlety, ensuring that conflicts strengthened rather than weakened the community. Every interaction, every decision, every carefully measured gesture reinforced the intricate lattice of trust, loyalty, and influence that allowed the convent to flourish. By late summer, the convent's gardens were lush, filled with the fruits of careful cultivation and quiet labor. The abbess, wise and discerning, recognized the cycles of human behavior that shaped the community. She understood that ambition, rivalry, and secrecy were not threats to harmony, but reflections of the human heart complex, subtle and capable of both mischief and generosity. Beatrice, observing all this, felt a profound respect for the delicate art of leadership, the intricate interplay of human motives, and the enduring resilience of the convent. As autumn approached again, painting the cloisters in gold and crimson, the convent settled into its familiar rhythm. Hidden councils continued, letters arrived and were deciphered. Alliances shifted subtly, and the quiet thrill of observation persisted in every corner. Beatrice and Lucien, now fully attuned to the nuances of their environment, understood that the true story of the convent was written not in grand events or visible displays, but in the invisible currents of trust, ambition, and careful discretion that flowed through every interaction. And as the nights grew long and the convent slept beneath the silver glow of the moon, the stone walls whispered of centuries of hidden triumphs, subtle strategies, and delicate victories. Every candle flicker, every shadow, every hushed conversation carried the weight of human complexity, a living testament to the enduring balance of ambition, loyalty, and quiet humanity. The sisters, resting in their cells, drifted into deep, reflective sleep, dreams filled with observation, subtle intrigue, and the knowledge that their lives, like the convent itself, were a tapestry of secrets and enduring grace. As autumn waned, the convent settled into a quiet rhythm, its stone walls bathed in the soft golden light of fading days. The gardens, once vibrant with summer blooms, now displayed muted hues, dying leaves, crisp herbs, and the first hints of frost, but even in decay, there was beauty. Sisters moved with steady purpose, tending what remained, harvesting the last of the season's herbs, and preparing for the cold months ahead. Yet beneath this calm, the pulse of hidden intrigue persisted, a subtle hum of ambition, loyalty, and observation that never ceased. Beatrice and Lucien, seasoned by months of careful study, continued to map the subtle movements of the convent. Alliances had shifted again, with novices proving clever and adaptable, older sisters asserting quiet influence, and Marguerite guiding the intricate dance with the ease of a master. Each day brought new subtleties: a misplaced key, a rearranged manuscript, a glance exchanged in the refectory, all hints of the ongoing, invisible network of trust and strategy that governed life within the cloisters. A traveling bard arrived one chilly evening, claiming to bring news from distant abbeys and courts. His tales, woven with songs and riddles, stirred curiosity and subtle rivalry. Some sisters were captivated by the stories, hoping to glean insights or inspiration. Others were cautious, aware that even a bard's songs could carry hints of influence and secret knowledge. Marguerite orchestrated the interactions with precision, ensuring that the bard was entertained without allowing him to uncover the convent's hidden schemes. Beatrice watched closely, recognizing the delicate balance between outward appearance and internal reality that defined the community. The Festival of All Saints brought another wave of careful preparation. Every candle was polished, every manuscript arranged, and every sister assigned a role in the ceremonies. Yet beneath the ritual, subtle maneuverings continued. Assignments were chosen strategically, alliances were reinforced, and hidden councils met quietly to discuss the allocation of resources, the advancement of loyal sisters, and the careful management of influence among novices and older members alike. Beatrice marveled at how devotion, ambition, and strategy intertwined seamlessly, each reinforcing the other. Even the abbess, wise and steady, found lessons in these subtle intrigues. Mother Agnes understood that the convent's strength lay not in rigid obedience alone, but in the careful orchestration of relationships, trust, and observation. She nurtured loyalty, guided ambition, and allowed the cleverness of her sisters to flourish, confident that these hidden currents would sustain the community through both calm and crisis. Beatrice recognized that true leadership required patience, empathy, and an ability to read the invisible forces that shaped human behavior. Winter returned with quiet inevitability, draping the cloisters in frost and snow. The gardens lay dormant, and the rhythm of daily life slowed. Yet the hidden life within the convent remained active. Candlelight flickered in cells and corridors, illuminating subtle gestures, whispered conversations, and the careful management of secrets. Beatrice explored long-forgotten chambers once more, discovering manuscripts and letters from centuries past, reminders of the generations of nuns who had walked the same delicate path of devotion, observation, and strategic influence. A final mysterious visitor arrived on a cold moonlit night, a scholar from a distant abbey, seeking guidance on rare manuscripts and historical records. His questions and observations prompted careful deliberation among the sisters, revealing both the depth of their knowledge and the subtle sophistication of their alliances. Marguerite guided the discussions with skill. Beatrice observed with quiet attention, and even Mother Agnes engaged with the scholar in measured conversation, all while preserving the delicate balance of secrecy and influence that defined the convent. The winter festivals arrived Candlemas. The Feast of the Purification and the convent, though cloistered, opened briefly to the outside world. Sisters demonstrated their devotion with grace and poise, offering songs, prayers, and carefully curated displays of knowledge and skill. Yet even in public the hidden currents continued. Alliances were subtly reinforced, rivalries quietly redirected, and the complex web of trust, loyalty, and influence moved invisibly through every gesture, glance, and word. Beatrice understood that the public display was only one layer of the convent's life, and that the invisible layer, the web of human complexity, was far more enduring and profound. As the year drew to a close, the convent rested under a blanket of snow. Candlelight glimmered softly in the windows, casting warm patterns on the stone walls. The sisters retired to their cells, their hearts carrying the quiet triumphs and delicate victories of the past year. Beatrice reflected on all she had witnessed: the hidden counsels, the subtle rivalries, the strategic kindness, the careful orchestration of influence, and the enduring strength of human empathy and loyalty. She realized that the convent, in all its serene beauty, was alive with history, knowledge, and the invisible threads that connected every soul within its walls. And as sleep descended, the convent breathed quietly, stone walls holding centuries of secrets, ambition, and devotion. Every candle flicker, every shadow, every whispered word carried meaning, preserving the legacy of generations who had walked the delicate path of hidden influence and careful observation. The sisters, each in their own cell, drifted into dreams filled with observation, subtle strategy, and quiet triumphs, the pulse of the convent's hidden life continuing softly into the night. In this serene balance of shadow and light, ambition and devotion, secrecy and care, the convent endured timeless, resilient, and alive with the richness of human complexity. Beatrice, Lucian, Marguerite, and Mother Agnes had all played their roles, navigating the intricate dance of life within stone walls that held both piety and mystery. And beneath the moonlight, through every corridor and cloister, the story of their hidden triumphs, quiet victories, and subtle intrigues whispered onward, a testament to the enduring artistry of the human heart. As the first snows of the new year fell, blanketing the cloisters in quiet white, the convent seemed suspended in time, serene yet alive with the invisible currents that had shaped it for generations. Every stone, every candle, every whispered conversation carried echoes of past triumphs, past rivalries, and carefully preserved secrets. Beatrice moved through the halls with a calm awareness, her eyes and mind attuned to the subtle signs that indicated shifts in loyalty, ambition, and trust. The abbess, Mother Agnes, now older but no less perceptive, observed the community with steady attention. She knew that the strength of the convent did not rely solely on rules or discipline, but on the careful cultivation of human relationships, the balance of influence, loyalty, empathy, and discretion. Even as snow drifted against the cloister windows, she guided her sisters with quiet authority, ensuring that each subtle current of ambition or curiosity was recognized, understood, and harmonized within the greater whole. Marguerite, ever the strategist, had grown even more adept at reading the invisible patterns of influence. She orchestrated the placement of sisters in tasks, guided conversations with precision, and nurtured loyalty while tempering rivalry. Her mentorship of Beatrice and Lucian had created a new generation of keen observers, sisters capable of navigating the complex lattice of human behavior with grace, subtlety, and discretion. Together, they ensured that the convent thrived, its legacy of wisdom and careful strategy continuing unbroken. The winter festival brought a final test of their skills. Noble visitors, scholars, and local villagers arrived, curious to witness the convent's devotion and discipline. Every detail, from the arrangement of candles to the sequence of prayers and readings, was orchestrated to convey order, piety, and subtle prestige. Yet beneath the ceremonial display, the sisters managed hidden negotiations, discreetly resolved minor tensions, and reinforced alliances, demonstrating that the life of the convent was as much about quiet strategy as it was about devotion. Even the smallest gestures carried weight. A book placed on a certain shelf, a candle lit in a particular corner, a word of encouragement in passing, all were threads in the intricate web of influence that defined the convent. Beatrice watched as novices, older sisters, and the abbess herself navigated these subtle cues, understanding that the true power of the community lay not in command alone, but in the shared understanding of human nature and the skillful balance of ambition, loyalty, and empathy. As the festival concluded and visitors departed, the convent returned to its quieter rhythms. The gardens, though dormant under frost and snow, awaited the renewal of spring. Manuscripts, letters, and ancient records filled the hidden chambers beneath the chapel, preserving centuries of wisdom, strategy, and human ingenuity. Beatrice, now deeply attuned to these hidden currents, reflected on the lessons she had learned, that patience, observation, and subtlety were as important as piety, and that human relationships, carefully nurtured, could sustain the community through centuries of challenge and change. The nuns retired each night to their cells, the glow of candles casting gentle light on stone walls, the muffled sound of the wind outside, and the distant tolling of the abbey bells marking the passage of hours. Dreams carried them through hidden councils, secret alliances, quiet victories, and small acts of compassion, weaving together the threads of ambition and devotion, secrecy and trust, observation and influence. Each dream reflected the delicate artistry of life within the convent, complex, subtle, and enduring. And within these walls, the stories of hidden councils, clever maneuvers, gentle kindness, and quiet victories continued to unfold, whispered in shadows and flickering candlelight, a testament to the enduring richness of human nature. And as the moon cast its silver glow across the cloisters, the convent slept, serene yet vibrant beneath the blanket of winter, carrying its secrets, ambitions, and triumphs softly into the night. Beatrice, Lucien, Marguerite, and Mother Agnes rested, knowing that their careful observation, strategic discretion, and quiet wisdom had safeguarded not only their own lives but the legacy of the convent itself. The pulse of the hidden life continued, gentle and enduring, a rhythm of intrigue, devotion, and humanity preserved within the stone walls for generations yet to come. In this way, the convent, timeless and resilient, existed as a living testament to the delicate art of navigating human complexity. Every whispered word, every subtle gesture, every hidden triumph contributed to a tapestry of life that was as intricate as it was enduring. And beneath the moonlight, through every corridor and cloister, the story of their hidden victories, careful strategies, and enduring devotion whispered onward, a serene and lasting melody of human ingenuity and quiet grace. The convent lay hidden among gentle hills, its stone walls cloaked in moss and ivy, seemingly serene and timeless to any passerby. Yet within those walls, life pulsed quietly but with remarkable complexity. Here, in cloisters bathed in flickering candlelight, a delicate interplay of devotion, ambition, loyalty, and subtle intrigue unfolded, a hidden world preserved across generations. Beatrice, a young nun of keen observation, moved silently through the corridors, her eyes noticing every gesture, every glance, every quiet shift in demeanor. She had arrived only months before, yet she sensed already that the convent was a living organism, each sister a vital part of a complex network. Some sisters wielded power openly, others, subtly. Alliances formed and dissolved, whispered words carried weight far beyond their sound, and secrets thrived in the shadows, preserved through careful discretion. At the center of it all was Marguerite, the convent's clever and watchful strategist. She guided interactions, observed behavior, and ensured that influence flowed according to subtle, unspoken rules. Beatrice watched her in admiration and study, learning the art of observing without being observed, guiding events without overt action, and understanding the delicate balance that allowed the convent to flourish. Marguerite's quiet mentorship became Beatrice's window into a hidden world, one where loyalty, discretion, and cleverness mattered as much as devotion. Even Mother Agnes, the wise and venerable abbess, understood the power of subtlety. She guided her community with steady hands and a keen mind, aware that strength lay not solely in discipline, but in understanding human nature, the desires, fears, and ambitions that shaped every choice and every glance. Letters arrived from distant patrons, gifts were exchanged, and favors requested, all navigated with precision to maintain both the convent's outward piety and its inward harmony. The convent was a maze of activity, its rhythm measured by prayer, labor, and observation. Candlelight illuminated ancient manuscripts, the quiet turning of pages revealing secrets preserved over centuries. Beatrice discovered hidden chambers, long-forgotten letters, and subtle maps of influence left by generations of nuns. She learned that knowledge was power, but discretion was the key that allowed it to endure safely. Seasons shifted, each bringing new challenges and new subtle dramas. Spring awakened the gardens, where herbs and flowers were tended with care, yet even here, control over rare plants became a mark of influence. Summer brought visitors traveling merchants, scholars, and nobles whose presence required skillful navigation. Marguerite guided interactions carefully, revealing some knowledge while concealing the most sensitive truths, ensuring the convent's secrets remained intact. Winter draped the cloisters in frost, yet the hidden currents never ceased. Candles flickered across corridors as sisters whispered in shadowed corners. Alliances were tested, minor disputes resolved quietly, and letters deciphered with keen attention. Even the smallest gestures a word of encouragement. The placement of a manuscript, a glance across the refectory carried the weight of influence. Beatrice realized that subtlety, observation, and empathy were as vital as devotion, shaping the life and enduring legacy of the convent. Visitors brought new intrigue. A traveling scholar deciphered ancient texts. A bard wove stories that sparked quiet rivalry, and a noblewoman's curiosity tested the sisters' discretion. Marguerite orchestrated every encounter with care, guiding perceptions, shaping loyalties, and reinforcing the delicate web of influence. Beatrice and Lucien, her companion in observation, absorbed every detail, understanding the invisible currents that moved through every hallway, every garden path, every secret chamber. Festivals punctuated the year's Candlemas, All Saints, the Feast of the Purification, each an opportunity to demonstrate devotion while subtly reinforcing alliances and managing rivalries. Every candle lit, every prayer offered, every manuscript displayed was carefully considered, part of a choreography that balanced the spiritual and the strategic. The convent thrived, not in spite of human ambition and curiosity, but because these traits were observed, understood, and harmonized within the community. Through it all, acts of kindness and empathy reminded the sisters of their deeper purpose. The sick were tended with care, novices guided patiently, and friendships nurtured in quiet moments. Beatrice realized that these small acts of humanity, often invisible, were the foundation of the convent's resilience. Power alone could not sustain it. Only trust, loyalty, and subtle understanding allowed the intricate network of influence to endure. As the years cycled through spring, summer, autumn, and winter, the convent remained a living testament to human complexity. Hidden councils met beneath chapel floors, letters arrived in coded form, and alliances shifted with the precision of an invisible dance. Beatrice became a masterful observer, able to interpret gestures, anticipate actions, and navigate the delicate lattice of loyalty and ambition. She understood that the convent's true strength lay not in strict rules or stone walls, but in the careful orchestration of relationships, the quiet triumphs of observation, and the enduring patience required to harmonize ambition with devotion. The abbess, Marguerite, and Beatrice, together with Lucienne and other perceptive sisters, ensured that the convent survived both the tests of time and the subtle disruptions brought by visitors and internal shifts. Even as the snow of winter fell once more, the stone corridors glowed softly with candlelight, alive with whispers of human ingenuity, quiet victories, and enduring devotion. Every shadow, every flicker, every glance held meaning, preserving the history and future of the convent in a living, breathing tapestry of experience. And so, in the quiet of the night, the convent rested under the watchful gaze of the moon, its stone walls holding centuries of secrets, subtle triumphs, and delicate victories. Sisters drifted into sleep, their dreams filled with observation, careful planning, and the gentle rhythm of life within the cloisters. Beatrice, Lucien, Marguerite, and even Mother Agnes rested, aware that their vigilance, wisdom, and empathy had safeguarded not only themselves, but the legacy of the convent itself. The convent, timeless and enduring, continued its quiet life, an intricate balance of devotion, subtle strategy, and human complexity. And beneath the moonlight, through every corridor and cloister, the story of hidden councils, clever maneuvers, and enduring loyalty whispered onward, a serene, timeless melody of quiet triumph and human ingenuity, carried softly into the night for generations yet to come. The first frost of late winter crept over the gardens, coating the herbs and flowers in a delicate lace of ice. Even in this quiet season, the convent hummed with life, not the clamor of the outside world, but a subtler rhythm of whispers, careful steps, and eyes that watched as much as they prayed. Beatrice moved through the cloisters with practiced attention, noticing the faint tension in a novice's posture, the small hesitation of a sister handling a rare manuscript, or the way Marguerite's eyes flicked toward a particular corner of the refectory. Every detail carried meaning, and every observation was a lesson in the delicate balance of power, trust, and influence. One night, under the silver glow of the moon, Beatrice discovered a faint trail of footprints in the snow, leading from the infirmary to a side chamber rarely used. Curiosity prickled at her, but she moved with caution, careful not to be observed. Inside, she found a sister kneeling in quiet devotion, arranging herbs and candles with meticulous care, leaving behind a coded message hidden beneath the floorboards. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, yet it spoke volumes about loyalty, secrecy, and the unspoken alliances that wove through the convent like invisible threads. Marguerite noticed Beatrice's growing attentiveness and decided it was time to guide her further. She spoke in hushed tones about the history of the convent, of nuns who had preserved knowledge, maintained delicate alliances, and shaped the community without ever stepping into the public eye. Each story was layered with lessons: when to act, when to observe, how to balance ambition with empathy, and the quiet power of subtlety. Beatrice realized that the convent's strength lay in these invisible arts, in the mastery of human understanding and the careful navigation of ambition without disrupting harmony. Winter gave way slowly to spring, and the gardens stirred again with life. The abbess oversaw the planting of new herbs, while Marguerite subtly guided the novices in their duties, ensuring that each small action reinforced loyalty and trust. Letters arrived from distant patrons, some requesting prayers, others subtly asking favors or guidance. Beatrice learned to decipher the hidden meanings in each line, recognizing that influence flowed not only through spoken words, but through the careful choice of details, phrasing, and timing. A visiting scholar arrived, seeking rare manuscripts and offering exotic gifts in return. His curiosity stirred both excitement and quiet competition among the sisters. Some displayed knowledge openly, hoping to impress. Others maneuvered discreetly, guiding his attention to the convent's treasures while safeguarding sensitive secrets. Marguerite orchestrated the interactions like a skilled conductor, ensuring that the convent's internal balance remained intact while subtly shaping the scholar's perception. Beatrice watched closely, absorbing lessons in diplomacy, discretion, and subtle influence. The annual festival approached, bringing light, music, and ceremonial order to the cloisters. Candles were polished, altars adorned, and the sisters prepared for both devotion and demonstration of skill. Yet beneath the surface, hidden currents continued. Assignments were carefully chosen to reinforce loyalty, subtle messages were exchanged in quiet corners, and the abbess guided with a gentle hand, balancing ambition and devotion with wisdom. Beatrice marveled at the seamless blending of visible ritual and invisible strategy, understanding that the convent's true life thrived in these hidden spaces. Even as the festivities passed, quiet rivalries and subtle alliances persisted. A sister who had once been timid now displayed gentle authority, guiding novices in ways both kind and clever. Another sister, previously overlooked, maneuvered with subtlety, influencing decisions without drawing attention. Beatrice recognized that each year reshaped the web of relationships, revealing the dynamic and enduring nature of human complexity within the stone walls. By late summer, the convent gardens flourished, each plant carefully nurtured, each task executed with precision and thought. The abbess, Marguerite, Beatrice, and Lucienne moved through their duties with awareness, their actions weaving a tapestry of influence, loyalty, and subtle triumphs. Even the quiet moments arranging books, lighting candles, or tending the infirm carried meaning, reinforcing trust and preserving the delicate equilibrium that allowed the convent to endure. As autumn approached once more, golden leaves drifted across the cloisters, signaling the cyclical passage of time. Hidden councils met quietly in chambers beneath the chapel. Letters were deciphered and subtle negotiations continued behind closed doors. Beatrice understood that the convent's strength lay not only in devotion or tradition, but in the mastery of subtle observation, careful planning, and empathetic leadership. The sisters' lives were a continuous interplay of ambition, kindness, strategy, and discretion, a dance as intricate as it was enduring. And as the nights grew longer, the convent rested under a silvered sky. Candles flickered softly against the walls, the distant toll of the abbey bells marking the hours, and the sisters retired to their cells, hearts and minds alive with quiet reflection. Beatrice, Lucienne, Marguerite, and even the abbess herself rested with the knowledge that their careful guidance, Keen observation and thoughtful management had preserved the legacy of the convent for another cycle of seasons. Beneath the moonlight, through every corridor and cloister, the convent whispered its enduring story, a story of hidden counsels, subtle victories, quiet alliances, and the delicate mastery of human understanding. Every gesture, every glance, every whispered word contributed to a living tapestry of devotion, ambition, and resilience. The convent slept, serene yet vibrant, a sanctuary of wisdom, secrecy, and enduring grace, carrying its quiet triumphs softly into the night for generations yet to come. As the golden hues of autumn deepened, the convent prepared for another cycle of reflection and ritual. The gardens, though fading in color, held the final blooms of the season, each tended with care and precision. Herbs were harvested, dried, and stored for use in the infirmary, while candles were polished to cast a warm, steady light through the stone corridors. Beatrice noticed how even these simple tasks carried subtle messages. The careful attention to detail revealed loyalty. The timing of actions displayed skill, and the choice of herbs reflected both knowledge and influence. A visitor arrived from a distant abbey, a scholar carrying rare manuscripts and strange instruments. His presence caused a ripple of curiosity and quiet excitement among the sisters. Some sought to impress him openly, demonstrating knowledge of ancient texts, while others moved in silence, guiding his attention toward innocuous details and away from the convent's most sensitive secrets. Marguerite observed with her usual precision, gently nudging conversations, orchestrating encounters, and ensuring that the convent's delicate balance remained undisturbed. Beatrice followed her mentor closely, learning the art of guiding perception without force, of influencing outcomes with subtlety, and of preserving harmony amidst ambition. Late in the evening, after the visitor had retired to the guest chamber, Beatrice wandered the cloisters alone. The soft glow of candles reflected on the frost-kissed stones, and a quiet wind whispered through the corridors. In a rarely used chamber behind the library, she discovered a hidden alcove, filled with manuscripts that had not seen daylight for decades. Dusty volumes detailed not only theological treatises, but records of secret councils, coded letters, and subtle strategies used by nuns to manage internal disputes and external challenges. Beatrice realized that the convent's legacy was written as much in these hidden texts as in prayer, each page a testament to human ingenuity, patience, and the careful orchestration of relationships. Winter arrived fully, draping the convent in frost and silencing the gardens. Even so, the pulse of the hidden world remained vibrant. In the infirmary, rare herbs were carefully measured, exchanged, and offered, each act reinforcing alliances and subtle hierarchies. In the library, manuscripts were read and interpreted, their secrets passed quietly among trusted sisters. And in the cloisters, whispered conversations traced the invisible lines of loyalty, trust, and influence, preserving centuries of tradition and subtle strategy. The abbess, Mother Agnes, guided her community with calm awareness. She understood that authority relied not solely on rules, but on insight into human behavior. Each sister's actions, each whispered word, and each careful decision were threads in a living tapestry of influence. Marguerite, seasoned and perceptive, orchestrated these threads with skill, while Beatrice and Lucien quietly learned the nuances of leadership, discretion, and strategic kindness. As Candlemas approached, the convent prepared for the festival with meticulous care. Every candle placement, every hymn, every reading was considered, not only for devotion, but for the subtle reinforcement of alliances and the demonstration of skill. The festival, though outwardly a celebration of faith, became a stage upon which the sisters displayed mastery of both ritual and subtle influence. Beatrice noted how the quietest gestures and offering of a book, the arrangement of herbs, a gentle nod could carry as much meaning as spoken words, guiding perception and strengthening loyalty. Spring returned, and with it, the gardens awakened. The convent seemed to breathe once more, each bloom and leaf reflecting careful tending and subtle management. New novices arrived, eager to learn, and Marguerite took the opportunity to mentor them in observation, discretion, and strategic thought. Beatrice and Lucien, now skilled observers themselves, assisted quietly, guiding the novices not only in ritual but in the subtle art of navigating human relationships with care and empathy. The cycle of visitors continued: scholars, merchants, and nobles, each bringing curiosity, potential alliances, or quiet challenges. Each encounter required careful orchestration. Marguerite guided them subtly, revealing knowledge without exposing secrets, observing reactions and redirecting attention as needed. Beatrice, absorbing every detail, began to understand the complex balance between perception and reality, between influence and discretion, and between ambition and empathy. As summer waned, festivals and ceremonies highlighted both devotion and subtle strategy. The convent's public displays of piety processions, hymns, and readings were intertwined with private negotiations, quiet councils, and the careful reinforcement of alliances. Every sister, from the abbess to the newest novice, played a part in maintaining this delicate equilibrium, ensuring that the community thrived both visibly and invisibly. Autumn returned, and with it, reflection on the year's cycles. Hidden councils met in chambers beneath the chapel, letters were deciphered, and subtle shifts in influence were noted and reinforced. Beatrice reflected on the lessons she had absorbed, that patience, observation, and empathy were as vital as devotion, that small acts of kindness could carry more weight than overt ambition, and that the careful orchestration of human relationships ensured both harmony and resilience. As the nights grew long and the convent settled into quiet rhythms, the sisters retired to their cells. Candlelight flickered softly across stone walls, the abbey bells tolled in the distance, and the convent slept, serene yet vibrant. Beatrice, Lucienne, Marguerite, and Mother Agnes rested with the knowledge that their vigilance, wisdom, and empathy had safeguarded the legacy of the convent, preserving its subtle triumphs, hidden counsels, and delicate victories. Beneath the moonlight, through every corridor and cloister, the convent whispered its enduring story. Every gesture, every glance, every whispered word contributed to a living tapestry of devotion, subtle strategy, and human complexity. The convent rested, timeless and resilient, a sanctuary of quiet triumphs, empathy, and enduring grace, carrying its secrets softly into the night for generations yet to come. As the convent moved deeper into the rhythm of years rather than seasons, time itself seemed to soften within the stone walls. Days no longer stood apart sharply from one another, but flowed together like candle wax, each moment melting quietly into the next. The sisters rose before dawn, their footsteps echoing faintly through the corridors, a sound so familiar it became comforting rather than intrusive. Even silence had a texture here, shaped by breath, prayer, and the distant call of bells carried on cold morning air. Beatrice found that her awareness had sharpened without effort. She no longer needed to search for meaning in small gestures. Meaning revealed itself naturally. A pause before a reply, a book returned to a shelf slightly out of place. A candle left burning longer than required, each detail spoke its own quiet language. She understood now that the convent was not governed by rules alone, but by shared understanding, a collective intuition refined over generations. One evening, while assisting in the archive chamber, Beatrice uncovered a bundle of letters tied with faded ribbon. The parchment was thin and fragile, the ink softened by time. These were not official records, but personal correspondences, carefully written reflections exchanged between former sisters long gone. They spoke of doubt and certainty, of difficult decisions made quietly, of moments when compassion mattered more than obedience, and when wisdom required patience rather than action. There was no scandal in these letters, only humanity, preserved gently between the lines. She read slowly, letting the words settle. These women had navigated their lives with the same care she now practiced, balancing devotion with discernment, restraint with understanding. The realization brought Beatrice a deep sense of continuity, as though she were not merely living her own life, but carrying forward a long, unbroken conversation. Marguerite, sensing Beatrice's growing confidence, began to step back, allowing her pupil to act independently. Not as a test, but as a natural progression. When minor disputes arose among the novices, Beatrice listened more than she spoke. When misunderstandings formed, she allowed space for reflection before guiding resolution. Her influence was never announced, never claimed, but it was felt gentle, steady, and reassuring. Lucienne too had changed. Once quiet and uncertain, she now moved through the convent with calm assurance. Together, the two women shared long walks through the cloister gardens, speaking softly about books they had read, patterns they had noticed, and lessons learned without formal instruction. Their friendship was built not on confession, but on mutual observation and trust, a bond formed through shared silence as much as shared words. The abbess watched all of this with quiet satisfaction. Mother Agnes understood that leadership did not mean control, but continuity. She had seen generations rise, learn, and eventually step into roles shaped not by ambition, but by readiness. The convent did not need dramatic change. It thrived on gentle succession, on wisdom passed like a flame from one candle to another without ever extinguishing the light. Years passed in this manner, marked by subtle shifts rather than events. The outside world changed. Rumors of unrest, distant conflicts, and shifting powers reached the convent through travelers and letters, but within the walls, life remained measured and deliberate. The sisters adjusted quietly, preserving their autonomy through careful correspondence, thoughtful hospitality, and an unwavering commitment to discretion. At night, when the convent settled into rest, the stone walls seemed to exhale. Candlelight dimmed, footsteps faded, and the air grew still. Beatrice often lay awake for a few moments, listening to the quiet, aware that she was part of something larger than herself. Not a secret in the dramatic sense, but a living tradition, one built on patience, empathy, and the deep understanding that human complexity did not vanish behind vows or walls. The moon continued its slow journey across the sky, just as it always had, illuminating the rooftops and cloisters with pale silver light. Beneath it, the convent endured unchanged in appearance, yet constantly evolving within. Every generation added its own layer of wisdom, then stepped gently aside, trusting those who followed to do the same. And so the story continued, not with an ending, but with a soft persistence, a rhythm of footsteps before dawn. The turning of pages in the library. The quiet exchange of glances that said more than words ever could. The convent remained a place of stillness and subtlety, where lives unfolded without spectacle, and where the truest stories were never spoken aloud, but lived slowly, patiently, and with enduring grace. The convent breathed through the night, stone and silence woven together so closely that neither could be separated from the other. Long after the final candle was extinguished in the chapel, a gentle awareness lingered, as though the walls themselves remembered every footstep, every whispered prayer, every unspoken decision made within them. Sleep came softly here, not as an ending to the day, but as a continuation of it, another form of quiet vigilance. Beatrice dreamed often now, but her dreams were calm and unhurried. They were filled with corridors stretching endlessly in warm light, with gardens blooming out of season, with voices speaking not in words but in understanding. When she woke before dawn, she felt rested rather than startled, as if she had simply stepped from one state of reflection into another. She dressed quietly, joined the others, and took her place in the slow procession toward prayer, each sister moving as part of a single, unbroken rhythm. Over time, Beatrice found herself entrusted with small responsibilities that once would have seemed daunting. She was asked to review correspondence before it reached the abbess, to oversee the copying of manuscripts, to welcome visitors with gentle discernment. Each task required patience more than action, listening more than speaking. She learned that influence did not announce itself. It accumulated quietly, like dust motes in sunlight, visible only when one paused long enough to notice. One afternoon, while walking the outer path beyond the gardens, she encountered an elderly sister sitting alone beneath an old yew tree. The woman had lived in the convent longer than anyone could remember, her presence as constant as the stones themselves. They spoke little, yet the silence between them felt full. When the sister finally spoke, her words were simple, almost weightless, yet they carried a truth Beatrice would hold for years. That life within the convent was not about renunciation, but refinement of thought, of patience, of understanding. As seasons continued to turn, the convent welcomed and released its members with gentle inevitability. New novices arrived, wide-eyed and uncertain, while others departed this world quietly, their passing marked by prayer rather than ceremony. Nothing here was rushed, not even grief. Loss was absorbed slowly, softened by shared memory and continuity. The convent did not cling. It endured. Marguerite, now older, moved with a slower step, though her mind remained sharp. She and Beatrice often sat together in the evenings, reviewing records or simply watching the light fade from the windows. There was no need for instruction anymore. What Marguerite had once taught through guidance, Beatrice now understood instinctively. Their conversations drifted toward reflection rather than strategy, toward the meaning of legacy and the comfort of knowing when to let things unfold on their own. Lucienne had taken on her own quiet sphere of influence, mentoring novices who reminded Beatrice of herself years before. Watching her friend guide others with patience and empathy filled Beatrice with a deep, unspoken pride. The cycle was continuing exactly as it should. Outside the convent walls, the world pressed on, changing rulers, shifting borders, uncertain futures, but within, time moved differently. The convent did not resist the world, it simply refused to be hurried by it. Letters were answered thoughtfully. Decisions were made with care. Nothing urgent was allowed to become important without reason. At night, the moonlight returned again and again, tracing the same patterns across the floors, illuminating the same corners where generations had paused to think, to listen, to choose silence over speech. The convent held these moments gently, never asking more of its inhabitants than attention and patience. And so the story continued, not toward a climax, not toward resolution, but toward stillness. A stillness that was alive, aware, and deeply human. Within the convent, lives unfolded slowly, shaped not by spectacle, but by observation, kindness, and the quiet mastery of knowing when to act and when to wait. The walls remained, the bells rang, the candles burned low and were lit again. And within that endless repetition, something rare and enduring persisted, a calm understanding that some stories are not meant to be told all at once, but lived gradually, carried forward in silence, and passed gently from one watchful soul to the next. The years settled into one another like layers of soft linen, each one adding warmth without weight. The convent no longer felt old to Beatrice, nor did it feel new. It simply felt complete, as though it existed outside the urgency of time. Morning bells still rang before the sun lifted fully from the horizon, and evening prayers still echoed gently through the stone halls, unchanged and reassuring. Marguerite passed quietly one winter night, her departure as understated as her life had been. There were no dramatic signs, no lingering farewells, only a calm sense that something carefully tended had been returned to rest. Beatrice sat beside her until dawn, holding silence as an offering. In that stillness, she understood that mentorship did not end with absence. It lived on in instinct, in judgment shaped by years of watching and listening. Mother Agnes, older now, entrusted Beatrice with greater responsibility, not through proclamation but through expectation. Decisions began arriving at her door naturally. Disputes were brought to her ear. Questions found their way to her presence without ceremony. She accepted each moment gently, never rushing to answer, allowing space for clarity to arrive on its own. Lucienne remained close, their friendship steady and unspoken. Together they walked the familiar paths, the gravel worn smooth by centuries of passing feet. Sometimes they spoke of small things, the weather, the gardens, a line from a manuscript, but more often they shared silence, the kind that required no explanation. They had learned that understanding did not need constant articulation. The convent continued to welcome new lives and release old ones, a quiet threshold between beginnings and endings. Novices arrived uncertain and over time learned the same lessons Beatrice once had. That influence need not be loud, that power could be gentle, and that restraint was often the highest form of wisdom. Each generation shaped the next not through command, but through example. One evening, as twilight softened the sky, Beatrice stood alone in the chapel. Candles flickered faintly, their light dancing across the stone. She felt no triumph, no sense of arrival, only a deep calm. She understood then that the true legacy of the convent was not hidden in records or whispered counsels, but in continuity, in the way attention was taught, in the way patience was practiced, in the way human complexity was neither denied nor indulged, but quietly understood. Outside, the moon rose once more, silvering the rooftops and gardens. Inside, the sisters retired to rest, each step measured, each door closing softly. The convent settled into sleep, not as a place of secrets, but as a sanctuary of awareness where nothing needed to be revealed loudly to be known. And so the story ended as it had always lived, without spectacle, without finality. The bells would ring again at dawn. The candles would be lit, the corridors would remember every footstep. And the quiet wisdom carried within these walls would endure, passing gently from one attentive soul to another, unbroken, unhurried, and forever at rest in the slow rhythm of time.